Lesson 17. Growth versus value investing. Broadly speaking, there are two types of investors: growth stock investors and value investors. Often, these two are pitted against each other, with each represented as the best way to invest. What is the difference between growth and value investing?
Growth stock investors seek companies that show consistent earnings and sales growth, usually 20% or more each year for the past 3 or 5 years. Companies such as Sharing Plow, Paychex, Cisco Systems, and Microsoft would be considered growth stocks in the 1990s. The price-to-earnings ratios of growth stocks are generally higher than those of the average stock simply because they have a record of better-than-normal earnings growth. Typically, growth stocks have a high-quality, repeat-type product or service that generates superior profit margins and a return on equity of at least 17% to 50%. In addition, consensus earnings estimate for these stocks for the following year or two are also up a significant amount. Value investors, on the other hand, search for stocks they believe are undervalued. These investors evaluate a company's balance sheet and profit and loss statement, looking for signs of hidden value, such as an unusually large amount of cash in the company, or property carried on the books at cost, which is below the current market value, etc. They are looking for a bargain and like to buy stocks with a low P/E ratio or a low price-to-book value. They look to buy a business franchise at a low price. Value investors have to wait for the market to hopefully recognize their stock's value for it to go up in price. This usually takes a longer amount of time, and sometimes it doesn't happen at all.
Buying stocks with low P/E ratio seems to be a common practice. Aren't bargains good?
In general, the stock market is a free auction marketplace where most stocks sell for around the price they're actually worth at the time. In other words, a stock with a P/E ratio of 10 is worth 10 times its earnings, and a stock with a P/E ratio of 35 is worth 35 times its earnings. If and when the price or P/E ratio moves up or down, it is caused by continued improvement or deterioration in earnings reports. So it's really improper to say a stock is a bargain because its P/E is low, and conversely, it's improper to say a stock with a high P/E is overpriced. You can't buy a Mercedes for a Chevrolet's price, nor can you get Mark McGwire, baseball's home run king, for the salary of a 200 hitter. The moral? You get what you pay for. The best company in an industry almost always sells at a much higher P/E than the also-rans in the group. We built models of all the outstanding stocks during the 1990s. Stocks like Amgen, Cisco Systems, Microsoft, America Online, Ascend, EMC, and PeopleSoft. At the very beginning of their 500% to 1,000% advances, their P/Es averaged 31 times earnings. And most of these leaders, on average, expanded their P/Es to the low 70s as they had their huge price increases. A value investor would have missed every one of these absolutely outstanding companies during their period of greatest performance. P/Es, in my view, are misused, misunderstood, and overstated as a stock selection tool. Growth in earnings and sales is the fundamental cause behind almost all price advances. If you choose to invest in individual stocks, and you're not a professional investor, I firmly believe it is better for you to avoid the value approach and learn to invest in the very best growth companies. Buy corporations that lead their particular industries in sales, earnings, profit margins, and return on equity. Buy companies that are gaining market share on their competitors.
Why growth stocks?
In all my years in the business and knowing thousands of investors, I have never known a non-professional who produced really outstanding results using the value method. I know there have to be a few people out there, I've just never met them. However, I do know dozens of outstanding growth investors who have averaged 25 to 50% or more a year. Now a money manager for William O'Neill Plus Co., Lee Freestone, was up 271% in 1998 and up over 100% for the first half of 1999. In 1991, at the age of 25, he entered the U.S. Investing Championship with his own personal account, real money, not play money, and was up 279%. Of course, results like this come from dedicated people who really work at it to get their exceptional returns. but it's nice to know what is possible if you're willing to spend the time and really work at it. While it's easy to cite isolated examples of value success, most people are not Warren Buffett. People do not have his resources to thoroughly dissect a company's financial condition and properly evaluate a company's business franchise.
What about mutual funds?
If you are a mutual fund investor, you can buy either a growth fund or a value fund. In the long run, as far as funds are concerned, it won't make much difference because the performance records are about the same. I've analyzed funds for over 30 years and have found this to be true. The value folks claim better performance based on the value record since January 1973. It looks better because value funds are less volatile and go down in a bear market. By beginning such a comparison at the start of the bear market in 1973-1974, value funds would naturally look better. However, if you start the same comparison at the beginning of the bull market, say in 1975, growth funds outperform value funds. Growth funds do better in up markets. Some people prefer to own both a growth fund and a value fund in order to feel more secure. Actually, I believe quality growth funds have performed slightly better. It may be just as important to decide between a large cap growth fund, which owns big companies, and a small cap growth fund, whose stocks are less seasoned, more volatile, and entail greater risk. The real key is to own a sound domestic growth stock fund, not an industry or international fund. You should keep it forever. The real money in funds is made through compounding, letting the money build on itself, not by jumping in and out of funds trying to time market conditions.
If you liked the video, please click the like button below and subscribe the channel. Summary. 1. There are two basic types of investors: growth stock investors and value investors. 2. Growth investors seek companies with strong earnings and sales growth, superior profit margins, and a return on equity over 17%. 3. Value investors search for stocks that they believe are undervalued and have low PE ratios. 4. Our studies have shown that the new market leaders had PEs that significantly exceeded the rest of the market, 31 times the average, before they made their big advance. 5. Mutual funds are a great investment as well. Pick strong performing funds from Investors Business Daily's Mutual Funds page, and remember the key to success with mutuals is to buy and hold forever.